See this here? This is my tripod, right? And that's exactly what I want to show you, because this video is about how to hike the Appalachian Trail on a tight ass budget. Before I started hiking the Appalachian Trail, I did a bunch of research on about how much it's supposed to cost me, as I'm sure a lot of you are probably doing right now. And if you did what I did, you probably read figures like $7,000 or $5,000 to $7,000 or $2.50 a mile. I saw one say up to $10,000, $1,000 for every month you're going to be out there. Either way, it's all really expensive. And so if you're like me and you just paid off your university loan, or you just don't have the highest paying job maybe, and you're looking at your bank account and seeing less than $7,000, don't worry at all, because I'm going to tell you that it's like more than possible to do it on substantially less than that. I'm just going to tell you the things that I did to make it cheaper for myself, and you can decide how far you want to take it and roll with it, because you can do it for far less than $5,000. So yeah, I guess we'll just jump straight into it. Okay, so gear. So gear's probably the first one to talk about. When it comes to buying the gear you need for the trail, everyone's talking about ultralight and stuff these days, which is all well and good, except it's cripplingly expensive. I mean, we're talking like $900 tents, $200 trekking poles, just crazy expensive stuff. And if you want to go down that road, totally do it. There's totally benefits for doing it. But if you're trying to hike the Appalachian Trail when you don't have as much money as everyone's recommending, then you don't buy that expensive gear. I didn't buy an expensive tent. I bought a decent tent. I just didn't buy an ultralight tent. I bought the cheapest trekking poles at REI. I think they were $40 or something, and they lasted the entire trip. And I flogged those things, especially with my knee injury. So just because it's not ultralight or it's the cheapest gear doesn't mean that it's not actually going to last. Now, I'm not going to say you shouldn't look at more expensive gear, but if this is about how cheap you can do it because you won't get to do it otherwise, then the cheapest gear and hope for the best. Okay, now accommodation. Hands down the easiest way to save money on the trail. Okay, so imagine this. You buy a whole lot of bedding equipment like a tent, a sleeping bag, and then you go and pay $50 a night to sleep in a hostel. That didn't make sense to me. For people that do it, absolutely, I'm sure it's a fantastic experience, and I don't bag on it. I bet it is great, but it wasn't something that was financially possible for me, and so I just cut it out of my mind. I didn't spend money on accommodation for the entire Appalachian Trail. You're going to be spending anything from the cheapest, they're about $20, about $20 to $50 a night for hostels. And I mean, you can pay way more than that. In the whites, I saw through hikers paying $150 or $148 for a night in some of the huts up there. So there's that. But yeah, it just doesn't really seem necessary. So if you want to do it, and it's going to be great. But if you're not going to get the opportunity to hike the Appalachian Trail unless you do it on a very small budget, then don't spend any money on accommodation. You already bought the tent and the sleeping bag, just tough it out and use it. Yeah, you go a while without showering, but everyone already smells. I mean, as long as you're keeping yourself like hygienic to the point of being like healthy, you're fine. So yeah, so don't stay in hostels, stay in the forest. I mean, there's times when I was in town and it got dark, because I'd hitchhiked in and didn't have time to hitchhike out. Could have gone to a hostel, spent some money, or you walk to the edge of town and camp in the forest. It's easy, so just straight up don't use hostels and stuff like that, and you won't have to pay for them, so you're going to save a fortune on that. Easy. You've just cut your costs in half at least. Okay, food, this is a good one. I like this. Food's an expensive thing. It's the only thing really that you consistently have to spend money on, but you don't have to spend it on expensive food. So the first thing I'd say is shop at Walmart. Secondly would be buy off-brand. Okay, so those two right there are going to save you a fortune. And you might look at it and be like, oh, but there's not a Walmart in every town that I'm going to go to. True, but there's also, you don't have to go to every town that's along the way. So I've seen people, and for their own reasons, totally, they were able to, would buy enough food to get them to the next place where they could buy more food, no matter what that was. And that's fine, you know, they decided that they would rather carry less weight and spend more money, and you know, good on them for that. But if you're doing it on a tight ass budget, you're going to want to look at the town with a Walmart and look at the next town with a Walmart. And if that's 5 days, you know, then you take 5 days worth of food. Otherwise you could resupply at that, let's say, gas station in the middle, but have to spend 3 times the money. So I was happy to just carry a little bit more weight. Or it doesn't have to be a Walmart, but aim for like a big supermarket. I never had to do a resupply at a gas station or anything, because you literally be spending 3 times the price for the exact same stuff, if not more. So just be super careful about where you're resupplying, and yeah, plan accordingly. Then with the type of food you buy, buying off-brand saves you a fortune, and just be looking at the stuff that you need nutrition-wise. Don't go in there and buy a whole lot of M&Ms and all sorts of that before you look at what your body's actually going to want. I mean, not saying you shouldn't buy M&Ms, they're delicious. I should get sponsored for that. But, I mean, you buy the things you need first, and then anything else is excess. So you should be able to do your resupplies for 3 or 4 days for $30 or less without trying too hard. And that does allow money for food if you on top of that if you're careful. Okay, yeah, so when it comes to still on the topic of food, eating out, if you decide to hitch into every town that has a restaurant or a diner or whatever and buy a whole bunch of food, yeah, it's going to cost you a fortune. You don't need to do that food because you've probably budgeted and already carrying the food for lunch that you were going to have that day. So I'm not saying don't go out and celebrate every now and then, totally do it, like every 100 miles or whatever is something that we started doing. And so even if you do decide to go out to eat to celebrate 100 miles, you can do it really cheaply. If there's a McDonald's, what me and Legs would do is we'd go in and I'd buy like 6 McChickens or whatever, and he'd buy like 4 large fries and a drink or something. So, you know, for $6 I was eating my fill, plus a whole lot of soda. Just chuck as many of those back as you can. Calories. So then you can just be smarter about the way that you celebrate with it. If you go to a restaurant that's like really expensive and you buy a steak, it'll cost you the same amount in that one meal than 5 of my celebration meals. And I still got to eat till I was full. So you're just being like, you know, conscious of what you're deciding to celebrate with and when you decide to celebrate. I think 100 miles is cool. But yeah, so that's easily going to cut your costs way down. And there might be some that you're like, oh, I might decide to only stay in hostels once a week. I mean, that's actually kind of really often in my mind, I don't know. But you might say, I might decide to stay in hostels once a month or whatever, or I'll only celebrate with a certain amount. But you can really just pick your level of how much of a tight ass you want to be, really. Or if this is the set amount of money you have, you divide that by the time you're going to be out there, and then that's all you have, and you just make do. It's not going to be easy, but it's not supposed to be easy. So just be conscious about what you're paying for. Yeah, I'm sure you can do it for far, far less than the recommended.